I had never thought of the sea as a place one could vanish into completely, not until the night the Aegir took me. Even now, years later, the memory rises unbidden, the fog curling around the harbor, the steady thump of my heart in my ears, the way the water seemed to swallow the moonlight whole. I had been hired aboard the Calypso, a mid-sized research vessel charting unusual magnetic anomalies in the South Pacific. My specialty was marine biology, though I had enough grounding in physics to make myself useful to Dr. Hartley, our mission's lead scientist. We'd been at sea for 9 days without incident when the instruments began to scream. The first reading came just after midnight, a surge of magnetic force so strong it overloaded our primary sensors. I was on the bridge when the numbers spiked, watching them dance across the display like living things. Hartley burst in moments later, his hair unkempt, eyes sharp. "Something's moving beneath us," he said without preamble, "and it's big." "How big?" "Big enough to distort every compass on the ship." We tried to track it. We failed. The object, or creature, or whatever it was, moved with impossible speed, circling us, disappearing, reappearing kilometers away. I felt the same dread I imagined sailors must have felt centuries ago when the sea began to boil with shapes they could not name. By dawn, the readings vanished entirely. Hartley ordered us to hold course, convinced we'd crossed paths with a rare geological event, an undersea eruption perhaps. But the crew whispered other theories: a submarine from a nation that didn't wish to be found, a living leviathan, a ghost ship from the deep. It was the third night when we saw it. I had been on deck, watching the swells. The sky was a black void pricked with stars, the moon low and thin. Out of the darkness, a shape rose from the sea, smooth, black, glistening, longer than our vessel. No sound but the hiss of water sliding from its surface. I called out, and others joined me. Hartley came last, his hair fogging in the cold air. "What is that?" someone whispered. The shape moved with uncanny grace, drawing closer. I expected lights, a conning tower, anything to suggest a conventional submarine. Instead, panels along its side began to glow with a dim, bioluminescent green. Then, it dived, without ripple or wake. The moment it vanished, the Calypso shuddered violently. We were struck amidships by something blunt yet unyielding. I went sprawling, tasting blood where my lips split against the rail. Shouts filled the air, and the deck tilted savagely. We were sinking. The Calypso listed to starboard, the sea rushing up to claim her. I fought my way to a lifeboat, but the swell tore it from the davits before we could lower it properly. My next memory is salt water in my lungs, darkness above and below, and the faint green light returning to surround me. I woke inside a chamber of polished metal. The air was cool, dry, tinged with something faintly antiseptic. The ceiling arched high overhead, ribbed with structural beams that looked grown rather than forged. I lay on a cot, my clothes dry, my head pounding. A figure stood at the far end of the room, watching me. He was tall, spare, dressed in a uniform unlike any I'd seen, dark blue with silver piping, high collar, boots polished to a mirror sheen. His hair was black, threaded with silver at the temples, his eyes the pale gray of weathered steel. "You are aboard the Aegir. I am Captain Vera." I sat up too quickly, the world tilting. "My ship, my crew." "Your vessel was lost. Survivors have been recovered where possible." He paused, and in that pause I heard the weight of the unspoken. Most were not. I rescued you, in a manner of speaking, but you are not free to leave. I tried to rise, but my legs buckled. He didn't move to help. You are here because you have seen the Aegir. That knowledge cannot be returned to the surface. I wanted to demand an explanation, but the words stuck. The room itself seemed to hum faintly, a vibration I felt through the soles of my feet and in the roots of my teeth. Somewhere beyond its walls, water moved. I could feel its pressure like a living thing. Vera turned toward the door, which slid open without visible hinges. You will be shown to your quarters. You will not attempt to access restricted areas, and you will not interfere with my crew. Do you understand? I hesitated, then nodded. The corridors of the Aegir were unlike any I'd imagined for a submarine. They curved gently, the walls lined with panels that shifted color with the ambient light. Cool blues, soft greens, deep indigos. The air was perfectly balanced, neither stale nor overly fresh, as if the sea itself had been filtered into something breathable. My quarters were small but comfortable. A bed built into the wall, a desk with embedded display, storage compartments flush with the floor. There were no portholes. For 2 days, no one came except a silent steward who brought food, rich, savory, unlike anything I had eaten aboard the Calypso. I began to wonder if I was the only unwilling passenger. On the 3rd day, the steward returned with an invitation from the captain. The observation deck was a vast, domed chamber at the bow of the Aegir. Its forward wall was a single, continuous pane of transparent material, thicker than my arm, curving overhead so the sea itself formed our ceiling. Outside, bioluminescent creatures drifted in the dark, ribbons of light, slow turning wheels of color, darting points like falling stars. You built this? I said before I could stop myself. Vera stood at the rail, hands clasped behind his back. Not I alone. The Aegir is the work of generations, engineers, explorers, those who understood that the future of our species lies beneath the waves. I moved closer to the glass, awed. A school of silver fish passed, each scale catching and refracting light like spun glass. Why do you hide it? Why not share this with the world? Because the world would not share it back. The surface consumes, it extracts. Down here, we preserve. He told me then, in careful, measured words, that the Aegir was entirely self-sustaining, powered by currents and heat differentials in the deep ocean, able to remain submerged indefinitely. Its purpose was exploration, yes, but also stewardship. They monitored ecosystems untouched by human interference, mapped trenches no sonar had ever reached, studied life forms that would die in the chaos of surface labs. And the ships you strike? I asked. His gaze was steady. We strike only those who threaten what we protect. The implication was clear. The Calypso had wandered too close. In the days that followed, I was allowed to move freely in certain sections of the vessel. I saw the hydroponic gardens glowing with artificial sunlight, the laboratories humming with quiet precision, the crew working with the discipline of monks. They spoke little, and when they did, it was in a language I couldn't place, flowing, liquid, full of soft consonants. One night, lying in my bunk, I felt a shift in the motion of the Aegir, a long, slow descent. The hum deepened, the air pressure subtly increased. When I rose and went to the corridor, I found Vera waiting as if he'd known I would. "Come," he said. We descended in a lift that moved without sound. When the doors opened, the air was cooler, the lighting dim. We entered a chamber lined with viewing ports. Outside, the sea was black, not the dark of night, but the absolute absence of light. Then something moved. At first, I thought it was the sea floor itself rising to meet us, but as it drew closer, I saw it was alive, an immense shape, its surface studded with faintly glowing nodules, its movement slow and deliberate. It passed so near, I could see its skin ripple in the current, each motion echoing through the Aegir's hull.
The Leviathan's passing stayed with me long after we left the viewing chamber. Its vast shadow haunted my dreams, not as a monster, but as a quiet guardian moving through the blind oceans of the world. In some strange way, I felt the Aegir was its smaller sibling, a man-made echo of an ancient design. Captain Vera allowed me more freedom after that night. I could visit the gardens, watch the engineers tending to the fusion nodes, observe the navigators tracking deep currents on vast holographic maps. I began to recognize faces. Relin, the silent steward. Mir, a biologist who spent her days cataloging plankton in a language I couldn't read. Fail, the helmsman who never took his hands from the controls. None of them asked me about the surface. None of them spoke about themselves. It was as though the Aegir existed outside of biography, its crew bound more to purpose than to identity. We were 4 weeks into our voyage, or captivity, depending on perspective, when Vera summoned me to the command deck. The dome above us showed not the black of the abyss, but a shimmering wall of pale green light. "We are approaching the crown of Thalassa," Vera said. The name meant nothing to me. "What is it?" "You will see." As the Aegir drifted closer, the light resolved into thousands, no, millions of living filaments, each one as thin as hair and longer than a ship. They swayed in slow synchrony, glowing with an inner fire. Small creatures darted between them, feeding on invisible currents. "It is a reef," I murmured. "A forest," Vera corrected. "Each strand is a single organism, older than most mountain ranges. They rise from vents that have poured heat for millions of years, and they are dying." I turned to him. "Dying?" "The surface mining has altered the currents. Temperatures rise, acidity increases. Soon the forest will collapse, and with it, the species that depend on it." I stared at the glowing expanse. It was beautiful in the way fragile things are beautiful, precisely because you know they cannot last. "And you want to save it?" Vera's gaze did not waver. "We will." That night in the mess hall, I overheard Mir and Fail speaking in their liquid tongue. Mir's eyes flicked toward me, then away. I caught only one word I recognized: surface. The tone was tense, almost hostile. I began to notice other things: locked doors where there hadn't been locks before, quiet exchanges that stopped when I approached, the way Vera avoided certain questions about how they would save the reef. 3 days later, the truth surfaced. Quite literally. I was on the observation deck when a silhouette rose through the haze above us. At first, I thought it was another deep-sea creature, but as it drew closer, the sharp lines of a hull emerged, steel gray, angular, bristling with antennae. A military submarine. It moved slowly, searching. Vera entered the deck without looking at me. "They have been here before. They will not leave willingly." The Aegir did not flee. Instead, the lights along its flanks dimmed until we were nearly invisible against the dark water. I could feel the tension in the crew, the way the air thickened with anticipation. Then the Aegir surged upward. We struck the submarine, not with a ramming blow, but with a calculated brush, enough to send its hull ringing, to jar its bearings, to make it appear as though the deep itself had rejected its intrusion. The other vessel turned, ascending rapidly. "You scared them off," I said. "For now, but they will return, and next time we may not be so gentle." I confronted him later in his cabin. "You're going to sink them, aren't you?" His eyes were cool. "If they threaten the crown, yes. That's murder. It is defense. The surface draws lines on maps, claims what lies beneath. Down here, there are no lines, only balance. And when balance is threatened, we act." I thought of the Calypso, of the sudden strike that had destroyed her. Is that what happened to us? We were a threat? His voice softened. "You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But yes, if you had continued, you would have brought others, and then it would have been too late." In the following weeks, I became a reluctant witness to the Aegir's campaign. We patrolled the forest of Thalassa, mapping its growth, tracking the chemical changes in the water. Whenever an intruding vessel approached, Vera's crew would drive it away, sometimes with force. I began to understand that they were not merely scientists, they were guardians, but guardians willing to kill. One evening, Mir approached me in the gardens. She spoke in halting English, her accent strange and soft. "You from surface. You understand surface greed." "I do," I said cautiously. She glanced around to be sure we were alone. "Vera will not stop. He will make war." I frowned. "War?" She nodded. "Not only defense, strike first, to keep them from ever coming." The next day, I found proof. In the engineering bay, a schematic glowed on a central display. A torpedo unlike any I'd seen, its casing designed to fragment into clouds of superheated particles. It wasn't built to damage hulls. It was built to kill crews. When I confronted him, he did not deny it. "The surface will not respect the crown unless it fears us." "Fear isn't respect. It's just hate waiting for a chance." "You speak like a man who still belongs up there." His gaze hardened. "But tell me, if your world had such beauty, would you not defend it with every weapon you had?" I had no answer. The turning point came without warning. We were shadowing a survey ship from the surface, civilian, unarmed, when Vera gave the order to engage. I stepped between him and the helmsman. "They're not a threat. They will bring others. They're scientists like you." His expression was unreadable. "Stand aside." When I didn't, two crew members moved to pull me away. I fought, shouting, demanding he stop. Mir's voice cut through the chaos, rapid, urgent. She was arguing with him in their language, her hands clenched at her sides. Finally, Vera turned to the helmsman. "Hold course, let them pass." The tension broke, but I saw the way he looked at me, not with gratitude, but with calculation. That night, Mir came to my quarters. "You have choice. Stay here, be one of us, or leave." How could I leave? She told me there was a relay station, a small craft that could ascend to the surface without revealing the Aegir's location. It would be dangerous, but possible. If you stay, you help Vera. If you go, maybe you stop him. I didn't sleep. I walked the corridors, listening to the ship breathe around me, feeling the weight of the ocean pressing in. Part of me wanted to remain, to see more, to live among the wonders no surface dweller had known. But another part, the part that still felt the sun on my skin, knew that I couldn't live in a place built on silence and fear. At dawn, I found Vera in the observation deck. The crown of Thalassa spread before us, its light dimmer than before. "You're leaving," he said, without turning. "I am. You will tell them. I'll tell them what they need to know." He was silent for a long time. "The surface will not understand. They will destroy what they fear." "Then maybe you need someone up there to make them understand." He looked at me at last. "And if you fail?" I thought of the Leviathan, moving through the dark, unseen. "Then at least I'll have tried." The relay craft was small, almost delicate, its hull a pale silver that shimmered faintly in the dim light of the launch bay. Mer was there to see me off. She handed me a sealed container. "From the forest," she said. Inside, a single filament of the glowing organism pulsed gently, alive in a bath of nutrient solution. "Show them beauty." I nodded. "And you, be careful." She smiled faintly. "We will watch the deep. You watch the sky." The ascent took hours. I watched the black water turn to deep blue, then to the shimmering turquoise of sunlit shallows. The first breath of unfiltered air made me dizzy. A fishing boat spotted me. By nightfall, I was back on land. Reporters came, officials asked questions.